share with you today a very special audio recording. I was only 5 years old when President John Fitzgerald Kennedy on July 4th, 1960, read the Declaration of Independence to the American people, but I remember that event. It was a different time, to be sure. We lived proud to be Americans. We were taught that pride in school. We were also allowed to pray in school. Our families mostly were strong, with a father and mother who stuck together through thick and thin. I had the best mom and dad anybody could ever have, and I don't remember once when I was growing up witnessing an argument between them. So if they did argue, they kept it away from us kids. My school day was typical across the great land. The first thing we would do each morning was to say the Pledge of Allegiance, and each day a different student led the class and sang it. And I was so proud when it came to be my turn to lead the class. I would stand there erect and proud, hand over my heart, as I would lead. And remember, to this day, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And then we would sing My Country 'Tis of Thee, which I'm not going to sing for you because nobody deserves to hear my singing voice. And that was followed by a short prayer. And when those things were put away and put out of our schools, the morals of our country began to plummet. Now you can deny it if you want to, but I lived it. I could see that degradation down through the decades. And you can't deny it. When those things were put away, as I said, the morals of our nation plummeted. And the trend now has led to people being ashamed of America, thinking America is evil, that it's done no good in the world, that it's always done harm. Not the case, my friends, not the case at all. We have been the beacon of liberty and freedom to the entire world. We were envied for what God gave us. But as we turned our backs on God, you can only slap him in the face so many times. And thus we are where we are today. And I fear, unless we turn back to God as a nation, we won't be a nation a lot longer. I believe the Kennedy administration saw our national pride at an all-time high directly before that young president was assassinated. Let's take a look together at the following photographs and listen to this historic video as President Kennedy reads our Declaration of Independence. And I ask everybody in this chaotic political time that you let the words sink in and that you realize our nation is a proud nation. My dad, as many of yours and grandfathers, fought in World War II in the front lines to keep our nation free, to keep the world free. Let's do them proud.
When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness, prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty, to throw off such government and to provide new gods for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. He has refused his assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance, unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained. And when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people, unless those people would relinquish their right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records, for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the rights of the people. He has refused for a long time, after such dissolutions, to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative power, incapable of annihilation, have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, for that purpose obstructing the laws for naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of land. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amounts and payment of their salaries. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. He has kept among us, in times of peace, standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. He has effected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by a mock trial from punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses, for abolishing the free system of English laws in a neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government, and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies, for taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our government, for suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burned our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the work of death, desolation, and tyranny, already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy, scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages, and totally unworthy the head of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens, taken captive on the high seas, to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands. He has excited domestic insurrections among us, and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers the merciless Indian savages, whose known rule of warfare is an indistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. Nor have we been wanting in attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our emigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and of consanguinity. We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation, and hold them as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace friends. We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do in the name and by authority of the good people of these colonies solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of a right ought to be, free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
That you enjoyed listening to that reading by President Kennedy. And now I'm going to share something with you that's probably going to tick off a few people, and I pray not. It's a clip that I saw just today on the news with President Trump at a rally where he acknowledges the importance of God and Jesus Christ. And I don't think, even a long time ago, that I ever heard anybody put it so pointedly as he did. You may like him, you may dislike him. I happen to like him. And a lot of people say, well, he's a very immoral man. Look at the things he said Yeah. Yeah. We've all been there. We've all done and said things that we wished we hadn't have. And I truly believe in watching his presidency that he has had an honest conversion experience, that he has become a born-again child of God, and he acknowledges God, and that ticks a lot of people off, and I'm sorry for them. So watch this clip, and that's all I have for you right now. God bless each and every one of you. Remember, please, I love all of you. Please leave me a thumbs up if you feel so inclined, and if you ever feel alone and that there's nobody who cares in this chaotic world that we live in, know that I do care. And all you have to do is leave a comment on any of my videos that you want to talk to me, and I'll give you my email address. And from my email address, I'll be happy to share my phone number. Don't ever feel you're alone. We don't have to be alone in a nation like ours. All right, thank you. God bless, and hope you enjoy.
Masks, no masks, everything, you can do all you want, but you know, you still need help from the boss. You need help from the boss. That's what happened. We need help. Yeah, we need help. It's all right to say. Now, they'll criticize me for that. How dare he say that? How dare he say that? No, I'll say it. I'll say it. I'll say it. Somebody said to me the other day, "You're the most famous person in the world by far." I said, "No, I'm not. No, I'm not." They said, "Yes, you are." I said, "No." They said, "Who's more famous?" I said, "Jesus Christ." I'm not taking any chances. I'm not going to have an argument. Hey, I'm not having any arguments. Jesus Christ. I'm not going to take any chances. I'll give it, I guarantee. And let me look up and I'll say, and it's not even close.